Ethan walked down the crowded streets of Port Haven, a small town nestled on the edge of Earth's busiest interstellar trading port. The smells of spices, metals, and sizzling street food mixed in the humid air, creating a chaotic but lively atmosphere. Ships of all shapes and sizes hovered above, docking and taking off with a soft hum of engines. It was the kind of place where travelers from across the galaxy could vanish into the crowd or be seen at any moment. Ethan loved the energy, the unpredictability, and the sense that adventure might be waiting around any corner. He was only 17. But Ethan already had a reputation for being clever and quick on his feet. Today, though, his attention wasn't on the ships where the merchants sit. It was on a small figure huddled near the edge of the marketplace. The figure was small, maybe a child, with wide eyes that darted nervously between the crowd and the guards. Her skin had a faint shimmer, almost like sunlight dancing on water, and her hair was a strange shade of silver that seemed to glow under the neon lights. Ethan paused, sensing that this was no ordinary human child. She looked hungry, her small hands clutching her stomach as she tried to stay unnoticed. "Hey!" Ethan called softly, approaching her. "Are you okay?" The girl flinched but didn't run. Instead, she shook her head, her large eyes filled with a mixture of fear and hope. I'm hungry," she whispered. Her voice was soft, almost musical, but it carried a sense of urgency that tugged at Ethan's heart. He glanced around quickly. The marketplace was busy, but there was no one near enough to cause trouble, except for the ever-watchful shopkeepers, who prided themselves on guarding every piece of merchandise. Ethan knew what he was about to do wasn't exactly legal, but he didn't hesitate. Hunger wasn't something to ignore, especially in someone so small and fragile. "Wait here," he said, giving her a reassuring smile. He slipped into a nearby candy shop. The air inside was sweet, almost cloying, and the shelves were stacked with jars of colorful treats. He grabbed a handful of Candy's chocolates, sweets, and some brightly colored gummies. Just as he was about to leave, the shopkeeper appeared from behind the counter. "Hey, what do you think you're doing?" The man shouted, but Ethan was already slipping out the back door. Holding the stolen treats behind his back, he ran back to the girl, who had watched the entire scene with wide, anxious eyes. He knelt down and held out the candies. "Here," he said softly. "Take them. You need them more than I do." The girl's eyes filled with tears. She hesitated for a moment, then grabbed the candies, clutching them to her chest. "Thank you," she whispered again. "Thank you so much," Ethan smiled. "Don't mention it. You should eat before anyone notices." She nodded quickly and began unwrapping the sweets, her movements small and careful. Ethan watched her for a moment, fascinated by the way she seemed almost otherworldly. There was something in her Azan intelligence, a depth that made him feel both curious and protective. When she finished, she looked up at him and handed him a small, glowing crystal. "Take this," she said. "It's for the day you might need it." Ethan held the crystal, feeling its warmth and a faint pulse of energy. "What is it?" he asked. "It's a token," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "A reminder. One day it might help you," before he could ask more questions. She turned and slipped into the shadows, disappearing as suddenly as she had appeared. Ethan stood there, holding the crystal and the fading echoes of her presence. He didn't know where she had come from or where she had gone, but he knew he had done something important. Something right. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Ethan tried to return to his usual routines, helping his father with the repairs of small freighters and selling parts to passing travelers. But his mind kept drifting back to the silver-haired girl. Who was she? Why had she been here, alone and hungry? And what did she mean by the crystal? Over the following weeks, Ethan would occasionally glance at the small pendant he had kept tucked in his pocket. It was delicate, yet strong, glowing faintly in the dark. He didn't understand its purpose, but he felt a connection to its hand, to the girl he had helped. In a way, it became a symbol of something bigger than himself. Kindness, courage, and the unknown possibilities of the universe. Years passed, and Ethan grew taller and stronger. He became a skilled pilot and a clever explorer, known in Port Haven for his quick thinking and daring adventures. Yet he never forgot the girl with silver hair and glowing eyes. He sometimes wondered if she had survived, if she had found safety, or if she had returned to her home among the stars. The memory of that night stayed with him, quiet but persistent, like a star that never fades. One evening, as Ethan repaired a small engine on a docked freighter, he felt a strange warmth from the crystal in his pocket. He held it up, and for a moment it pulsed more brightly than ever before. It was as if it recognized something, or was calling him. Ethan didn't know it yet. But that small act of kindness, the simple gesture of sharing candy, had set a chain of events into motion that would reach across decades and galaxies. Somewhere far beyond the stars, the girl he had helped was growing into something extraordinary. Something that would one day change the course of his life forever. For now, though he was just a young man in a bustling marketplace, unaware that the universe had already marked him for a destiny far greater than he could imagine, a destiny tied to loyalty, courage, and a bond formed from a simple act of kindness. 20 years had passed since Ethan had given candy to the mysterious silver-haired girl. In that time, he had grown into a skilled pilot and a clever explorer. Known across Earth and nearby colonies for his daring missions and quick thinking, yet he had never forgotten the girl who had appeared in the marketplace that night, or the small crystal she had given him. He had kept it safely tucked in his cabin, a reminder of a kindness that had changed his life. One day, Ethan was contracted to deliver a rare shipment to a distant world, Eloria, a planet known for its shimmering cities, floating gardens, and advanced civilization. The mission seemed straightforward: deliver the cargo, receive payment, and return. He didn't realize that destiny had something far greater in store as his freighter descended through the atmosphere. Ethan couldn't help but be struck by the beauty of the planet. Its cities glowed with a soft, golden light, and the sky was filled with floating ships moving gracefully between crystal towers. It was unlike any world he had ever seen. He docked at the central port, unaware that the ruler of this world would soon change his life forever. Inside the Grand Palace, Queen Lyra watched the incoming ships with a sense of anticipation. She had grown from the hungry girl in the marketplace into a wise and just ruler, admired by her people for her courage and intelligence. Yet she had never forgotten the human boy who had shown her kindness all those years ago. The candy he had shared, the way he had cared without hesitation, those memories had stayed with her. She wanted to see him again, to thank him properly, and perhaps to show him that small acts of goodness could ripple across time and space. The announcement came. Human pilot had arrived to deliver goods. Lyra's heart quickened as she recognized the name Ethan. She had studied his records. She instructed her attendants to escort him to the palace gardens, where she would meet him in person. Ethan stepped out of his ship, feeling the soft breeze of Eloria on his face. The gardens were unlike anything on Earth: trees with glowing leaves, streams that shimmered with liquid light, and flowers that seemed to hum softly. He followed the attendants through the pathways, unaware of the eyes watching him from above. When he finally reached the central pavilion, Ethan froze. Before him stood a woman whose presence was both commanding and gentle. Her silver hair framed a face that was both familiar and regal. And her eyes, the same large, expressive eyes he remembered locked onto his. Recognition flashed between them, and Ethan felt a rush of memories from that long-ago night. "Ethan," she said, her voice calm but filled with warmth. "Do you remember me?" He swallowed, unsure if he dared speak. I think so," he replied slowly. You were a child?" Lyra smiled. "I was hungry. You gave me candy. You didn't hesitate. You were kind, even when it wasn't easy. I have never forgotten it." Ethan's eyes widened. That was you?" He held up his pocket, revealing the small crystal she had given him. "I kept this. All these years." Lyra stepped closer, her hand reaching out to touch the crystal. "You kept it. And it still holds your energy. That is remarkable. Ethan, human kindness is rare and precious." The attendants watched quietly, sensing the significance of the moment. Ethan felt a strange mix of awe and humility. He had only acted on impulse, guided by empathy. He had not imagined that his small act could have such meaning. "I can't believe." "You're the queen," Ethan said finally, shaking his head. "I never would have guessed. I never expected to meet the boy who helped me again," Lyra replied softly. "But life has a way of bringing people together. I wanted to see you, to thank you, and to show you that your kindness has stayed with me all this time." Ethan blinked, trying to process everything. The girl he had helped was now a queen, a leader of an entire civilization, and she remembered him. A warmth spread through him, a mix of pride, humility, and wonder. Over the next few hours, Lyra showed Ethan the wonders of her world. She introduced him to her advisors, engineers, and scholars, all of whom marveled at the human who had shown extraordinary empathy. Lyra spoke openly about how small acts, like Ethan's kindness, could inspire others and create trust even between worlds. As the sun began to set over the floating gardens, Lyra and Ethan stood on a balcony overlooking the city. The lights shimmered like stars on the surface of the planet, and the air was filled with a sense of possibility. "You see, Ethan," Lyra said quietly, "what you did that night? It was more than just giving candy. It was a choice to be brave, to be kind, to act without expecting reward. That choice changed my life, and it brought you here, to this moment." Ethan felt a lump in his throat. I never thought something so small could matter so much," he admitted. "I was just trying to help." "And yet it mattered," Lyra replied. "It mattered more than you can imagine. Humanity has the ability to surprise the universe not with power, but with heart. That is why I wanted you here. I wanted the world to see that humans are clever, compassionate, and brave." Ethan looked at her, feeling a mixture of awe and respect. He realized that kindness could indeed echo across time and space, shaping destinies and creating bonds that no one could anticipate. And he knew that his life had been forever altered, not just by meeting Lyra, but by the lessons she represented: courage, empathy, and the strength of the human spirit as the evening sky deepened into night. Ethan and Lyra stood together, two friends reunited after decades, bound by a moment of shared compassion. They spoke of dreams, adventures, and the possibilities that lay ahead. For Ethan, it was clear that this was only the beginning of a journey that would take him beyond anything he had ever imagined. A journey where humans could shine not through force or conquest, but through bravery, intelligence, and the simple, powerful act of being kind. Ethan had spent several days on Aloria, learning about its people, culture, and technology. The planet was magnificent, with cities that glimmered under golden skies and floating gardens that seemed to touch the clouds. Yet, even in all its beauty, not everything was peaceful. Tensions simmered between rival factions, some skeptical of humans, some wary of Queen Lyra's decisions, and others envious of her wisdom and power. Ethan quickly realized that his presence, though welcomed by Lyra, was being watched closely. Advisors whispered, guards scrutinized him, and officials from distant regions seemed both curious and cautious. He had expected admiration, but he also saw a test awaiting him, a chance to prove the worth of humanity to an entire alien civilization one morning. Lyra called Ethan to the council chamber, a grand hall suspended above a luminous river. She stood at the center, her silver hair catching the light as she addressed her advisors. "We face a challenge," she began. "Some factions doubt the loyalty of humans. They fear what we do not understand. Today, we will show them that trust, courage, and intelligence can bridge worlds." Ethan listened carefully. He did not yet know the details, but he understood Lyra's intention. She wanted him to demonstrate that humans were more than just fragile beings from a distant planet. They could be clever, brave, and reliable. The challenge came sooner than expected. A supply convoy traveling from a distant region to the capital had been attacked by rogue ships. The attackers were skilled, fast, and relentless. If the convoy was lost, tensions would rise, and Lyra's rule might be questioned. Ethan volunteered immediately. "I can help," he said, his voice steady. "I know how to outmaneuver ships like these. I can protect the convoy. The advisors exchanged skeptical glances. A human pilot? Against Aloria's finest fleet? Yet Lyra nodded, her trust in Ethan unwavering. "Do what you must, Ethan," she said. "Show them what humans can do." Ethan boarded his small, agile craft and joined the convoy. The rogue ships appeared on the sensors, fast and unpredictable. Ethan's mind worked quickly. He analyzed their movements, predicted their paths, and coordinated with the convoy's escorts. Using clever maneuvers, he lured the attackers into traps, outsmarting them at every turn. The rogue ships fired repeatedly, but Ethan anticipated their actions. He dodged redirected energy fields and used the terrain of the planet's floating islands to his advantage. Each move was precise, thoughtful, and calculated. Soon, the attackers were confused, their formation broken, and the convoy was safe. When Ethan returned to the capital, the council chamber erupted in astonishment. Advisors who had doubted him whispered among themselves. The humans' cleverness, courage, and quick thinking had saved the convoy. Queen Liera looked at Ethan with pride and gratitude. "You see," she said to the council, "this human acted not out of fear, not out of obligation, but out of courage and intelligence. This is the spirit of humanity. Let it be known that humans can be trusted, that they can be allies, and that their hearts are as brave as any warriors." The council murmured in agreement. Slowly, the skepticism faded. The alien leaders began to understand that humans were not merely fragile beings. They were capable of remarkable deeds. Ethan felt a warmth in his chest. All those years ago, when he had shared candy with a hungry girl in a small marketplace on Earth, had acted without thought of reward. Now, decades later, that act had indirectly brought him here, giving him the chance to show that even humans from a distant planet could make a difference in the galaxy. Over the following days, Ethan and Lyra worked together to strengthen the alliance between humans and Aloria. He shared knowledge of Earth's technology, strategies, and ways of thinking that the aliens had never encountered. Lyra's people were amazed, not just at the human ingenuity, but at the respect, patience, and honesty with which Ethan approached every problem. During a quiet moment in the floating gardens, Lyra turned to Ethan. "You have changed how my people see humans," she said softly. "All because of a single act of kindness long ago. That night, you did more than feed a hungry girl. You showed a part of humanity that is rare and precious." Ethan smiled. "I didn't know it would lead to this," he admitted. "I just wanted to help someone who needed it. And that is why it matters," Lyra replied. "Because true courage and kindness are timeless. They echo across years, across worlds, and even across species. You have reminded us that the heart can be as powerful as any technology or weapon." The people of Aloria began to celebrate. Ethan as a hero. Stories of the human who saved the convoy, who had shown courage and intelligence, spread across the planet. Children looked up to him, adults respected him, and leaders learned to trust humanity more than ever before. Ethan knew that his journey on Aloria was not just about adventure or recognition. It was about connection, understanding, and proving that even small deeds can have extraordinary consequences. He had never imagined that stealing candy for a hungry girl in a marketplace would lead to this a role in shaping alliances, bridging worlds, and earning the respect of an entire civilization. As he and Lyra stood together on the palace balcony one last evening before his departure, the city below glimmered like a field of stars. Ethan felt a profound sense of fulfillment, knowing that humans had made a mark on the galaxy not through force or conquest, but through courage, empathy, and intelligence. "Thank you, Ethan," Lyra said, her eyes reflecting the shimmering lights of her city. "For everything. For the past, for now, and for the future. Humanity has earned its place among the stars. You've shown them the way." Ethan nodded, holding the crystal she had given him all those years ago. "I just did what felt right," he said. "But I'm glad it made a difference." And as he prepared to return to Earth, Ethan knew that this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, full of challenges and adventures. But he also knew something more important, that humans, guided by courage, kindness, and intelligence, could face anything, even the unknown, and leave a lasting mark across worlds.